friends and
Yeah.
colleagues. We're starting a two-event webinar series on the resources required to finance urbanization and city development in India. And we're asking two questions. One, are the finances adequate considering the scale, complexity, and nature of urbanization and the challenges we are facing in developing livable, inclusive, resilient, equitous, and climate-prepared cities? Are the money required? And we're not talking about any kind of urbanization. We're talking about this kind of urbanization. Are the money adequate? And the second question is, and which is almost a subtext of the first question, is, has the 16th Finance Commission, which has recommended resources to be allocated to the local bodies for the above tasks, done a fair job? Has it been fair? And as a matter of fact, I read this afternoon that the resources they allocated are almost double the amount we had last time. We are seeking answer to these two questions today and tomorrow. And on both days, we have some brilliant expert presenting and debating these matters. The lead presenter is Dr. Ravikant Joshi, and he is ably questioned and supported by two other stalwarts, which is Dr. Partho Mukhopadhyay and Professor Jyoti Chandiramani. We are grateful to all of them for making time for this important event, and we know they're very busy. We're very, very grateful. But let me first introduce them, because the format is such that I will have to introduce them. Dr. Ravikant Joshi is a renowned urban finance and management specialist with over 40 years of experience in India and internationally, and a former chief accountant officers of Vadodara Municipal Corporation. Big, huge journey. He's currently a member of the Government of India's high-level committee on urban planning and a consultant to institutions such as the World Bank and CRISIL. He has led key reforms, including implementing accrual-based accounting across Gujarat's municipalities, contributed extensively to research and publications, taught at leading institutions, and supported capacity building and civil society initiatives. He is, incidentally, and I'm very proud of saying this, a trustee of INHAF as well. The second person who will be a respondent to what Dr. Ravikant Joshi presents is Dr. Partho Mukhopadhyay. He is a senior fellow at CPR, that is Center for Policy Research, where he has been associated since 2006. He was previously part of the founding team at IDFC, focusing on private participation in infrastructure, and has also worked with the Export-Import Bank of India and the World Bank in Washington. He has taught in institutions including IIM Ahmedabad, XLRI at Jamshedpur, and School of Planning and Architecture, Delhi. A widely published scholar and regular contributor to national media, he has served on several government committees, including chairing the working group on migration by Government of India. The third speaker, the second respondent, is Professor Jyoti ji. Jyoti ji, thank you very much. Director of the Symbiosis School of Economics and Dean of the Faculty of Humanities and Social Sciences at Pune. She has over 40 years of experience in teaching and research. She currently sits at Urban Economic Development and Urban Mobility at the postgraduate level. Her research focuses on urban economic development, including mobility, infrastructure, policy, and smart cities, with ongoing work on Pune-centric case studies. So these are the three very important people we have today. Now, before we start, I must also take a few minutes and tell you what I have been doing for last 145, 142 webinars in terms of why are we doing this? What is the purpose of organizing this webinar series? So let me tell you briefly why we are organizing these webinars on rethinking cities for the past 4 years. An understanding we have is essentially a six-part understanding. One, and this is our thinking on the subject, and believe me, entire edifice of this webinar series is built on this. One, the Indian cities, as they are and the way they are growing and developing, do not look like meeting the challenge of unprecedented urbanization India is witnessing. That doesn't look like. We do not seem to be on the track in meeting the urban challenge adequately. And our cities, as they are, reflect this inadequacy. So this is the first thing, that we are not adequately poised to be meeting a difficult urban challenge. The second thing is this, that government effort alone is not adequate to ensure healthy, livable, productive, inclusive, and sustainable cities. It is not that the government is not doing things. Smart Cities Initiative, Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, toilets and sanitation program, 1 lakh crore urban challenge fund, it's a big list. They are all there. And they're very useful, they're playing their role. But they're sin in the problem solving, but they're sin in the problem solving mode. And the Indian cities need, in my thinking, something more than it, which is more transformative. What Wally and Dow of Habitat 2 described as revolution in urban problem solving. So what one is saying is this, that the kind of solutions that we offer, kind of way we're handling it, is not likely to deliver because our issues are very complex. The fourth thing that we are saying is the wider society, the human capital outside the government system, has the required skill, knowledge, experience, even motivation to contribute meaningfully in search for alternative approaches and new solutions. And fifth thing is we are racing against time. And this is important. The time is very important. The economic, social, human, and environmental costs of delay is really big. And we must get ready to respond before it is too late. We must put the time element in our equation when we talk about urbanization and meeting the urban challenge. And the last thing is the need of the hour is a wider national societal effort aimed at bringing in not only fresh ideas and new perspectives, but also new voices and a new collectivism, new togetherness, new partnerships, and new energy in articulating the need for and ways to rethinking our cities, both redefining the urban challenge and finding more effective ways to addressing it. So this is the thing that we started with 4 years ago, and we continue doing it. We are done. We are, I think, on 143rd webinar today, and we hope to do at least 200 in the next year or so. So with this introductory remarks, over to Ravikant Saab. Is all yours, is all Partha Saab's, and also all Chandaramani ma'ams. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Kirti Bhai, and big thanks to the INHAF with which I belong for giving me this opportunity. And I'm really privileged because two really very good academic scholar, Dr. Partha Mukhopadhyay and Dr. Professor Jyoti Chandaramani has agreed to be discussant of it. I would not have asked anything more than that. So let me share my presentation. Is it visible?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Now?
Yes, sir. It's visible. It's visible.
Okay, good.
And it's full now.
And hope it is moving. It's moving now?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
Great. So, see, today what I will be discussing is that there is a general feeling that a lot of more money is getting spent in urban sector after various reports, for example, starting with the HPC report, Ishwar Aluwalia report in 2011. Before that, JNURM was a big boost starting point where central government came out for the first time in the history with the big scheme, followed by, as Kirti Bhai mentioned, Smart City Mission, PMY, and then Amrut. And now Amrut 2.0 has come, then Swachh Bharat mission also. And likely to come is the Urban Challenge Fund, which has been announced last year. I will be trying to take a stock of what is really happening at the ground level. The state is clear that with increase in the urbanization, investment needs of the urban infrastructure and urban service delivery are increasing. Various reports have pointed out. I will be looking at some of the latest estimates about it, right? Starting from way back in Zakaria Committee report, 1963, those attempts have been done, but I will look at some of the latest one. So at the same time, not only these reports have shown that there is a big gap between what is required to be invested, looking to the urbanization, the way urbanization of India is increasing, and what is the gap or what is the shortfall in what is required and what is actually done. So the question which need to be asked or the outcome which need to be monitored and evaluated regularly and comprehensively and transparently, all the three things, is whether we are investing adequately. Because as Kirti Bhai is saying that not only we need to invest them urgently, sufficiently, and whole that thing should be transparently known to all and should be monitored continuously. And not only in quantity terms, but in quality terms, urban infrastructure need to go up. So with that preamble, let's look at what exactly is happening, particularly in last 10, 15 years. There are certain estimates. I'm referring to India's population growth by census 2019 report, which estimates that India's population will be 555 million by 2031, which will be 37% of the total. Then there are minimum various studies which gives about this is a minimum population growth. There are UN studies and other studies which are pointing out that India is already much more urbanized if different kind of definitions are taken into account than whatever current level we are thinking. But I will be sticking to this minimum population growth which is projected by Census of India. But there are different estimates, and based on a conservative estimate, urbanization projection could be 43% by 2050 and 52% by 2070. And moderate urbanization projections estimate that we will be 54% urbanized by 2050 and 66% by 2070. I have given some of the reference at the bottom of my slides, which later will be available to all of you. So you can look at those reports also. Different estimate, which I said, let's start with the first report, which was HPC, which estimated that 1.14% of the GDP should be invested. HPEC report was in 2011, and it estimated from 2011 to 2031, it said that on an average per annum, India should be investing 1.14% of the GDP. Then in 2022 comes a report by World Bank, which is financing India's urban infrastructure needs. It estimated that India would require, figures I won't go, they are there, but 1.18% of the GDP. Of course, the period they have taken is 2021 to 2036. I was also part of that report, which is main important is the estimating how much is the gap. So it looked into the 15th Central Finance Commission ICRI data, which indicated that we have been investing at a 0.06% of the GDP. The graph shows you. And then it is equivalent to the USD 26, correct? But which need to go to the USD 108 in this 2021 to 2036 period. So India need to quadruplet its per capita investment or the total investment in this period of 2021 to 2036. Then there is another report which has come last year, which is towards resilient and prosperous cities in India. I was also part of this report, and where I would request others to look at the chapter 4 in that report, which estimated both with the normal level of the urban infrastructure and climate resilient infrastructure, how much India will require in coming years. And here the projection is a long term up to 2050 and 2070. To cut the story short, it says that if a normal conventional way of urban infrastructure is carried out, all these at a minimum level, we are not talking of a very highly developed country level, minimum basic level, minimum normative standard, that is the base which is taken, then India would require to invest 1.52% of its GDP. And if we include the climate resilience kind of norms for urban infrastructure, then it could be from 1.67% to 1.9%. So we can roughly say by 2050, we won't go in 2070 estimates, they are there. There is an entire chapter written in that. Those are interested should read that one. It gives very detailed analysis to 2070 of India's projected urbanization and total requirement. I also won't read those figures because they are in the trillions of dollars, and multiplying it by 73 would be a very big amount. But if we take a moderate urbanization scenario, then we would require probably from 1.9% to up to 2.5%. This is to give idea, because in the end, I'm comparing how much in recent time we are spending as a percentage of the GDP vis-a-vis these norms. So as I earlier said, HPEC report said 1.14%, World Bank report 2022 estimated 1.18%, this conservative urbanization growth resilience city report 1.5 to 2%, and then moderate, if we take a moderate urbanization, then it would be 1.9% to almost 2.6%. This is up to 2050. So 2020 to 2050, India need to invest at this rate. And mind well, this, as I said, these all estimates are based on a minimum standards, and then does not include metro, urban housing, or slum upgradation. This whole estimate or this requirement is for basic municipal services, which are water supply, sewerage, solid waste, roads, developing transport infrastructure, but not per se urban transport, means metros and BRTS, and stormwater drainage, social and community infrastructure. Let's come to the next point. How much urban infrastructure investment is happening? We do not have comprehensive data. Of course, the report prepared by the ICRI for the 15th Central Finance Commission was quite comprehensive. It provided data for 2011 to 2017. Post that, there are only two reports. One, there is a RBI report on status of municipal finance in 2022 and 2024. Another RBI report on status of municipal finance, but it looked into only the municipal corporation. Latest report included data of 232 municipal corporation and not the entire data. 16th Central Finance Commission, with the help of Janagraha, has attempted, a report also was prepared by Janagraha, and 16th Central Finance Commission has also collected data, and they have provided, but they have provided only municipal own source revenue data, not like the 15th Central Finance Commission data set, which was created by ICRIR, which provided in entirety total municipal finance universe, means municipal own source revenue, revenue grants they are getting, capital grants they are getting, and then the borrowing they are doing. All the aspects of the municipal universe were covered. But in 16th Central Finance Commission, what data we are getting is only of municipal own source revenue. Danagra report, which was prepared for 16th Central Finance Commission, gives that kind of a holistic structure of the municipal finance, which indicates that 50% is the municipal own source revenue and 50% amount comes from in the form of a revenue grants, capital grants, and some here and there borrowing. So there is no complete overall picture. Only one consistent data which I have utilized is the GOI, Government of India's budgetary allocation for urban sector scheme, or Ministry of Housing and Urban Development, Urban Affairs, whatever has been allocated and actually released. So that is a constant data set available. At state level, such kind of a data is not available, and not to talk of it at a ULB level. So what picture is emerging? If we take from 2014 onwards till date data set up to 2026 budgeted data, then what we see that in the initial phase, there was a quantum jump from earlier 2010-12 data. And it really went up when the Amrut and Smart City mission started around 2016. So you can see in this graph. And that continued up to say 2018 and 2021, where Government of India provided on an average 1.4 to 1.6% of its total expenditure budget. So out of total Government of India's expenditure, this is what urban sector schemes got the money. And actual allocation, of course, always less. It hovered around 1% of the total expenditure of Government of India. Particularly what you are able to see from this growth, with 1 year exception, it is fairly constant. That 1 year exception was because a huge amount for PMY was released under the commitment. But otherwise, you can see the fairly consistent data. And then 2024, what we are seeing is allocation also going down. But what really is going down is the actual fund released to the municipal bodies. Now, one need to understand, it's not a fault of a GOI. When Government of India provides budget amount for urban sector scheme in its budget, that is released, some portion is released upfront so that the municipal bodies can start the project under Smart City Mission or Amrut anything. But later on, it is released. Next installment is released only after a utilization certificate is submitted that whatever grant was received from the central government has been spent, and there is a matching share component. State government has to give some amount and ULB has to put in its own share. So that has also been spent, and then the next installment can be asked. So when we talk of an actual release, that is not in the hand of the GOI. It depends on how the at a ground level, ground zero level, expenditure has happened on the scheme and how much municipal bodies or urban local governments have been able to demand the release of the funds. So the picture emerging, sorry, I jumped one slide further. So picture again further emerging is actual provision, as I said, that in first there it was in tandem. You can see the graphs, bar chart. If you'll see exception 2021-22 data where I said PMY, the entire deck was cleared because in PAY there was a beneficiary-led contribution, banks had given, so there was the interest subvention. So a lot of interest subvention was paid in that year of all the projects, all the houses sanctioned. So if we ignore 21-22, then you can see the allocation and release, they were coterminous, almost 100%. Correct. In one or two cases, even more than 100%. But last 2 years, or particularly last 2 years, the allocation has been made, even at an increasing rate allocation has made. So you can see that little bit more allocation has been done year to year. But then the actual release to the local government is much low and sharply has come down. In between also it has come down, but mainly in last 2 years it has come down sharply. And as I said, this depends on uptake by the municipal bodies, and it doesn't depend on what government of India want to release, correct, or wish to release. It depends on utilization certificates submitted and on ground level actual expenditure carried out by the urban local government. Because this is the point, keep in mind, I'm using for inference what really is a problem at a ground level, correct? So the picture which is emerging, again, if we can see from another, now that this, we talked of a consolidated figure, but it has three main part. One, amount for the basic urban infrastructure, which really comes from the Smart City Mission, Amrut, and Swachh Bharat Mission. And then there is a metro projects, and then PMY, that is the public housing or affordable housing, public housing project. So how scheme allocation is happening? Then you can see, if we take right from 2014 to 25 entire data, then 41% metro projects have received. Urban housing has received 30% chunk, and basic infrastructure, that is water supply, sewerage, these are the municipal functions. See, metro is not at all with the municipal bodies. Metro is a separate, delivered by the SPV, joint SPV of the central government, state government, and railway, and whatever it means. Even in urban housing, only 1/4 component is delivered by the municipal body. There is a beneficiary-led construction is there, interest subvention, bank loan. Then there is a affordable housing project with the private participation done by the various parastatals also. There are housing boards and others. So in urban housing, very small portion comes to the municipal bodies to be spent for the urban housing. So municipal bodies, when we are talking, what really matters is these three schemes: Smart City Mission, Amrut, Swachh Bharat Mission, and in the future Urban Challenge Fund will matter for that. Correct. So actual release of the funds for infrastructure service has been lower, which is the real thrust. Correct. Than budgetary allocation. And another we are observing that next slide will show you that when we look at the public housing and these, the allocation has always been better than the actual release has been better than the allocation in most of the cases. But when it comes to the basic services which are implemented by the urban local government and which are really basic services, water supply, sewerage, solid waste management, in that case we are seeing whatever allocation has been put forward, the actual release is much more. First, as I said, very small portion, less than 1/3 is being given for the basic services, correct? And in last 2 years, even housing has come down because PMY1 ended and PMY2 is taking off. These three graphs will show you, you can see the red line, which is at a 0% actual release. And you can see many times in case of basic urban services, actual fund release have been negative or less than this. Not the case with the metro. Once in a while it has happened, but actually the actual release has always been more than what is allocated. So in revised budget, Government of India has to, which is a good sign, means metro projects are using the money which is allocated in the budgets, correct? Maybe because of the SPV structure, professional people working on it, and the private player also working into it. In PMY also, though it has come down in last 2 years, 3 years, but it will go up. But usually the uptake has been much more than what has been provided. But that is not the case with the functions which has been handled by the municipal bodies, or in some cases water supply, and this is handled by the parastatals, but at a municipal level. What trajectory we are seeing in last 20 years, if we start from 2005, initially government of India was providing very minuscule. Up to 2005, in government of India's budget, it was a very minuscule percentage, not even 0.5, it was 0.2, 0.3, 0.2, 0.3, which as I said has gone to 1.4, 1.3 in allocation and actual around 1%. And now it has come down, correct? So first phase we see there is a growth, but in each and every scheme we are finding first a growth, then there is a stagnancy, then there is a decline. If we look back into 2014-15, metro was minuscule, but entire period 2014 onwards, we take, as earlier said, 41% share has gone. So now again put it into perspective. Hardly there is a 1% of the total expenditure of government of India, 1% or 1% goes for the urban sector schemes. Within that 41% goes to metro, 30% to the PMY, and only 27% for your municipal basic services, and 2% for National Urban Livelihood Mission or livelihood kind of thing. Let's now compare all these things. Municipal own source revenue, government of India's provisioning, and then the total municipal universe. Luckily, as I said earlier, 12th Central Finance Commission report, 13th Central Finance Commission report, 14th Central Finance Commission, and at that time, Professor O.P. Mathur's book are there, published by the ADB and all that. So if we take it that, then I have a time series data and this allocation data right from 2002. Even I have before 1997. In 1997, it was, but we are taking it from 2002 here. So if you'll see, then 16th Central Finance Commission has provided into municipal own source revenue only. But same report says that it constitutes 50%. So if we can then infer and double that. So it says that it municipal own source revenue, which is then that has been worked with the GDP, and then that has been doubled. It may be some little bit more, but still you can see it is India has been spending less than 1%, or some places it has been more than 1%. Correct. So total municipal finance quantum falls short of a minimum investment, which is recommended by 1.14 by HPEC and 1.18 by World Bank. This is up to 2036. Earlier two reports which I referred to. Earlier also, World Bank report has shown, which I showed on the very first slide graph, that the total investment is 0.6 only % of the GDP. And if we take even today, that remains same, because if we take the municipal basic revenue, then you can see again we are around just 0.6 only, correct, which has been observed. But what I am doing is that municipal this World Bank report has taken data only up to 2017-18. 16th Central Finance Commission has made data available from 2018 to 2022. That I have juxtaposed. And there now comes a widening gap is noted also. You can see graph, municipal own source revenue and how much it is happening against the two bars. And we come to the final point, that is the paradox, that on one side, India's investment needs for urban infrastructure are increasing, in fact, every day, because every year we are adding 90 lakh people to 1 crore people in our urban population, correct? And so it is growing every day. But the picture which is inferring all this data is that investment is not stagnant, actually declining. And that is in nominal terms. We are not talking in real terms or not in per capita terms. In fact, we take the per capita terms, then actually it is negative growth. So per capita spending will come less than the negative or close to the zero. And if we use the real, not nominal data, but real term data. Now, why this paradox? See, there are both aspects, demand side and supply side. What this really telling, and which has been the fact, and for last 23 years, I must have worked with the 100 ULB. That is what I'm finding. finding that at ground level, things are not happening. Investment is not taking place. Infrastructure is not getting developed. It seems flyover has got constructed, STP, but compared to the need, it is much, much less. Why it is happening? Because, and you can see each of the scheme, flagship scheme, which has taken exactly double time. Smart city ended by the government of India after 10 years. It doesn't mean it was complete. What government of India said in Amrut or in smart city mission, that now we will not be approving any new project, and whatever projects has been approved, for that only investment funds will be released. Other expenditure will have to be borne by the state government and urban local bodies. So, like all the nationally important flagship these, they all have ended at the duration of exactly double than what they were envisaged. Naturally, whatever investment was envisaged, indicated investment, that has been less than 70%, less by 30%. So every scheme against it time has taken double time, but in actual indicated investment, whatever was the project outlay was decided, planned, actual investment has happened 70% in quantity terms. We do not know any data about quality terms because there is no service level benchmark data available. So that's the problem. And why this is happening? Because there is a lack of capital absorption capacity or project planning and implementation capacity, lack of OSR, that is own source resource augmentation. All cities, my personal experience and individual cities experience, I can give with the concrete data that their bottom line has eroded. And that is leading to the lack of funds because of the political economy. Water rates have not been changed, property tax rates have not been changed for 10 years together in many cases of cities. So their bottom line has eroded, and they are not able to absorb the fund which has been made available. And that is the case even with the Central Finance Commission funds. If you'll see the Central Finance Commission funds, whatever has been provided as a grant, the uptake is 75 to 80%. Even 15 Central Finance Commission, we will end up with the uptake of only 75%, maximum 80%. Correct? Then there are supply side issues also. See, there is one kind of a passivity. Just making funds available is not going to solve the problem because there are larger structural issues. And that passiveness, just making funds available and allowing local governments to take their own course, it is just putting the food on the table and children's not being able to eat it or not eating, and then getting malnourished. Now that kind of scenario cannot be allowed by any higher level government. Correct? Of course, central government has much less leeway because it can put the funds available, but actual issues, that is giving more powers, professionalizing urban local bodies, or giving them more resources, continuous monitoring of their performance, and holding them performance accountable for their performance, giving them the helping hand who are lagging behind, and day-to-day monitoring is with the state government, and that is really missing. So that's the supply side biggest constraint. Correct. Also, there is another aspect, lack of proactiveness. I will show you. See, announcing scheme, then it takes the experience has shown that 1 to 2 years have been lost just following the scheme announce and then preparing the project reports as per the scheme guidelines, submitting them, approving them, and everything. Then uptake starts, it goes up. Then it comes tapered, and when scheme comes to the end, again the investment goes down. And then again there is a time lag in announcing one scheme and the next scheme. Correct? And then again the thing repeats, that again you take 1 to 2 years a preparatory period. Correct? So one is a passivity. We can't leave this entire urbanization and urban infrastructure development in the hands of municipal bodies. It doesn't mean taking away from them. which has been practiced for last 30, 40 years, creating different parastatals, but even those parastatals are not delivering. Because so not taking away, but strengthening them and actually making them to do it. That's kind of a thing has to be done, and there has to be proactiveness and better scheduling of all the schemes. I have just examined the central government schemes and their timeline, which I will be showing in next graph. But each state government has capex schemes, its own scheme, and they suffer from this also, same thing, taking double time to implement, much less investment happening coming against the outlay which was proposed. So we plan X taking into account urbanization and urban infrastructure needs, but then when actually that scheme get implemented, it fails by 20 to 30% and takes the double time. So if that is done, then the actual implementation is just 30% or 40% against the planned one or out this. So this time lag and so this graph, which later on you will be able to see it in detail, but it basically shows that one scheme is taken. For example, JNURM was announced in December 2005. It took 2 years or 1.5 years each city submitting, preparing the plan, preparing the report, CDPs, then submitting it to the this government for approval. Then central approval will happen. It has to go to the state and all that. And so these 3 phases you can see. Then expenditure will go up, come down. In smart city mission, it happened between this NURM ended in 2012, continued up to 2014 just for expenditure. So 2013 to 2015 there was no central scheme. Then comes the central this smart city mission and Amrut. Then it takes again 2 years to 3 years for submitting the projects, approving those projects, sanctioning the funds for that. Then funds coming it, and then cities using it. And finally, even the latest example, Urban Challenge Fund, last year announced, but still guidelines are awaited after 1 year. And now the guidelines will come. Again, it will take 1 or 2 years. So what is the way forward? That is the paradox. That is the cost, supply side and demand side. See, on demand side constraint need to be addressed, as I said. These are something like a teenage children or in a formative age, our cities, barring some very oddly developed adult with teenage mind like big cities, metro cities. Their case is different, but most of the cities, if we have to give a parlance, they are in a formative age. And though they should be given freedom, they should be monitored every day, every minute, and for every aspect. And they should be held accountable for performance also. There is no performance accountability. So what we need to do is that we need to address on war footing, because whatever inadequate funds are made available, ULBs are not able to utilize. There is also another syndrome that there are some top 20, 30 cities, they are sitting on a huge of unspent funds because they have better finances. They earn every year revenue surplus. Even central, this commercial financing report also has pointed out that. And one can put the estimates that at least top 30, 40 city, if I can roughly put estimate 50, 60, 70,000 crore, they are sitting on in the banks on the fixed deposit. So not to talk of funds which are coming as a capital grants, not being able to spend them, but their own surplus they have not been able. Rest of the 4,700 cities do not have revenue surplus. That's a financial demand side issue. So ULB's capacity in all terms, governance, project planning, service delivery, need to be improved on a massive war footing mission basis. Just making funds available is not going to solve the issue, and day and day gap will go on increasing. They need to be provided with the adequate powers. No more powers has happened in last 25 years. Autonomy or new resources in their hand has not been given. And finally, their performance need to be monitored, as I said. On supply side, all central level and state government schemes, time management. Why can't we? In fact, I remember way back in 2012, when 2010, I had submitted a suggestion that in 2012, JNURM is coming to the end, announced JNURM 2. Give 2 years time for preparing the proposals and submitting the reports. so that 2012, when the JNURM 1 comes to the end, JNURM 2 can go ahead and decks will be clear and everything. Alas, what happened? In 2012, nothing happened, and 2 years extension was given just to book the expenditure. And that whole scheme ended from instead of 2012 to 2014. Today, even same thing happening with the other urban schemes. We need to plan our urban schemes, their announcement, their preparedness, preparatory phase, much better way. Of course, every report has said quantum of the devolution need to improve substantially. Municipal body, in fact, ICRI report had given 2.5% this HPEC report, and in that they had said that central government should go to 0.7% of the GDP, and state another 7%, and then more than 1% by the municipal. So 2.5% India should be investing in of the GDP in urban infrastructure, and they had given that composition, correct? So at the moment we are just 0.6 or 0.7%. Even if we include parastatals and everything, it is not beyond 1%, and that has been the case for last 20 years. India has been investing 1% of the GDP roughly. Nobody can say surely exact figures because we do not have data. And time-bound project implementation, all this need to be done. I will stop here with the Economic Survey of India this year, 2025 report, very beautifully to an earlier report, 2017. I will just read that and stop because that summarizes what I wanted to say, and that is the what is required. First, Economic Survey 2017 says rightly, and I can say this is a global definition, how a municipal body should be or urban local government should be. Cities that are entrusted with the responsibilities. That's what I'm saying. Don't take away the functions because they are failing. Empowered with the resources, adequate resources, own source revenue and devolution, and encumbered by the accountability, which is missing. No city is held responsible or accountable for lower performance. Can become effective vehicle for unleashing dynamism so that to competitive federalism, India can add and rely on the competitive sub-federalism. Economic Survey 2017. Take any country in the world, this is what a dream definition or this is what a local government should be. Come to this year Economic Survey, again it's succinctly and beautifully saying the physical investment will deliver their full dividend only if accompanied by stronger metropolitan governance, predictable enforcement, and credible civic compact that aligns incentives between citizens and the state. Cities will also need to be empowered with better finances. And last line, which again I am saying, which is the real crux of all this issue, is the performance-oriented accountability. I will stop here. Again, thanking to INHAF and my two discussant, Professor Jyoti Chandiramani, because they will be, I am keen to hear them, and Partho Mukhopadhyay. Thanks.
Well, I suggest, thank you, Raviji. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Thank you, Raviji. This was not only comprehensive, this was brilliant, and have looked into all aspects and have analyzed the scenario very interestingly. I don't really want to add anything to this except for requesting Jyoti ji to come in.
Yes.
You have about 15 minutes to respond or elaborate on what Raviji has said. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kirtiji. Thank you, Ravi. Excellent presentation. I don't have anything to contest in it. Just to add, because I think in urban we are like stuck records where we keep talking about the same thing. We are spot jogging, and that's what really bothers me the most, that we don't seem to be moving ahead. And what you showed is quite evident. In fact, even without looking at the data, I could imagine the three phases that you talked about: 2005 to 2014, the first phase, 2014 to 2021. And yet, we are where we are. What we talked about in 2005, at least there was a silver lining that was coming up. But now it's almost 21 years since the JNNURM, and we are wondering what is happening. So let me begin with a couple of things that, you can state that cities have a function to play. They are performing with respect to, growth and the GDP of a nation. But the first point I would like to say is that we are still not addressing the definition of urban as it should have been revised. And we are stuck to the old definition, and we are going into the census with the old definition. That means there is a subset which is rural, there's another subset which is urban. And until we say, okay, we're taking the whole nation and looking at infrastructure building in a contagious manner. All right. So here is where I feel that the definition has still not been redefined, and there is adequate evidence to say that, whether it's the World Bank talking about it, it's a degree of urbanization, which is the UN definition that has come in, and which actually says that, we are far more urban than what meets the eye. I'm not going to throw data right now. It's there in the public domain. When we look at ULBs from 1992 onwards and the Constitution Amendment Act, you talked about urban planning, and we know where the planning is right now. You talk about water supply. I mean, I can give adequate evidence for Pune because I work very closely on case studies out here. That water supply in the 23 fringe villages still have tanker water supplies. In fact, if I don't know whether Abhay Pete is here, but his often stated term that there is absence of demand for governance is a very, very crucial point, because he keeps taking that, and that has stuck in my head, that one liner. There are people who, I know my maid who has moved out, has got pushed out of the slums and has had to take a 1-bedroom hall somewhere in Manjri, and they realize that they say, okay, we got a better house, we'll buy the water. So therefore there's a defeated aspect that we will buy water because we can't contest the situation. We have to make two ends meet. So planning is not adequate. The water supply, which is a basic necessity, is not there. The solid waste management, where are the benchmarks? As you mentioned, there are no benchmarks really. And if they are the HPEC benchmark of 2011, which are still not being followed. I remember the McKinsey report, which said that, this is what is the benchmark and this is what we are in 2010-11. Shinish Sankey's project report. Now, between that diagram and that figure and the new one, what is it that has changed? Where have we improved? What is the percentage change in our urban infrastructure that we have created? And what are the lags? So my next question also is, do cities have an economic plan which says this is where we need to spend so much, this is what is needed to be done? And is there a demand for that economic plan? What is it that every city needs to have? We are having data centers in Gurgaon, we are having data centers in Pune. You're having these tall glass and steel buildings, you're having environment which is going to get affected, AQI is going to go up. And you know that there's going to be in-migration, but there's going to be no water supply. So I think what you talked about, infrastructure funding, while all that, you're right about the paradox, but on the other hand, nothing has really moved. It's just the cities are expanding, the same cities, and it's going further down the drain. So though you have had slum rehabilitation and a little bit of affordable housing, many of them do not even have water supply. So in theory, 100% functional responsibility lies with the ULBs for certain functions, but it's still not there. I agree that resources of ULB are only 1% of GDP. So what are we doing about it? What has the 16th Finance Commission done? I'll leave that to, Raviji to respond. So I come to a couple of questions to you, Raviji, that I think the paradox of rising infrastructure needs alongside stagnating or declining investments that we are talking about. Do we really call this a paradox? Or do you want to call it a structural equilibrium problem where fiscal constraints and institutional capacity limitations have existed. We know that we do not have our urban local bodies that should have at least, X number. If we have 35 to 50% vacancies, which is as per the Praja Urban Index that had been governance index done in 2024. So we do not have people to deliver the projects. Every time we find shortcuts to what would you say, deliver in terms of services, and there that absorption capacity is not there because funds are there but they are not utilized, functionaries are not there, and the functions have been defined. So it's really the functionaries. So what do you think about this is one point, Ravi. This is my first question to you. uh, while we say that there is an accidental neglect or a one-off budget cut that has happened in 24, 25, 25, 26, you said it has actually come down. Rules, intents, incentives, and institutions and politics that are there consistently produce low investments in cities even when needs are clearly rising. So I think, is it a structural outcome or is it a policy mistake? We need to look at this, because that's the first thing, where you have the functionaries, you have the deliverables and somebody to monitor it, but of course uh, absence of demand for governance. The next question that I have here is that this brings that the low absorptive capacity, as you talked about, at the level of urban local bodies, are we placing a burden of explanation on ULBs? Have any states, I know Kerala's done a good job, but are those, is there any model that can be emulated from different states which have probably performed better? Because when we benchmark Indian cities with global cities, we fall even below average. So here we would say that, how do you enhance the absorption capacity? What are the case studies that are there? Because it's always conditionality, right? Submit utilization certificates, provide matching funds, meet performance benchmarks. There's no easy flow of funds, but can you allow the funds to flow easy? So I'm putting two counter questions to you. um, well, while we have talked about these 2 points on absorptive capacity and the paradox, the next thing is, yes, investments are capital intensive, highly visible projects like metro systems that you have talked about. Even though all the metros that are barring probably Delhi, their ridership is much lower than what was said in the DPR. Yet these investments go on. Um, where will, I mean, how justified are these investments? Because you said 41% of that is really coming in for metros and housing that is there. But you find that it is not very clearly, I mean, you find that the DPR is low, the last mile connectivity is not there. UMTA may be there, but UMTA is not performing. There is an office, there is there, but where is the last mile connectivity? Everywhere in most of the cities, you find these are still a problem. So you've again created an infrastructure, but you have not solved the hand in hand problem that needed to be looked at. And the third question that I have is, why do data gaps still exist? I mean, we talk about being the fourth largest economy in the world. We are moving in that sense as academicians. Why is this data still not there in the public domain? To make things accountable for us as citizens to know why, where we have reached and how we can fill up. There should be this aspect, but there's obviously no demand for it. And finally, looking ahead, I would like to pose a more structural question. With emerging ideas like city economic regions, are we implicitly shifting away from a urban local ULB centric governance model? Do you think about that? Okay, towards regional economic framework? And to conclude, my real question really to you is whether we are investing enough in cities. Is the amount adequate? We say 840 billion, we keep saying, is it enough? What is the current investment allocated compared to what we require? And how are we going to fill up this gap, which of course you have talked about on a number of occasions, but let me be the one asking you this question. Is the fiscal architecture and policy imagination with the central role that cities are expected to play in India's development trajectory adequate? So thank you. Here are my comments. And
Thank you, Jyoti ji. Thank you very much. This was very interesting. And Ravikant sir, what I suggest is this: that she has,
Let the Partha first
yeah,
speak.
that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying.
Yeah.
So let
the
Partha come back, and then I think just
Yeah.
combine the question and then take it forward from there. Partha Saab, I understand you are in Bangkok. Are you?
Yes, I am in transit. Thank you. Thank you, Kiti Bhai. And thank you, Ravi ji. I'm sorry, my connection isn't all that good, so I won't be able to appear on screen. I'd sent my presentation earlier to INHAF, and maybe they can put it up in that structure. Uh, so I think what Dr. Joshi has done is bring out the current situation very vividly. And if I, uh, while that presentation is being put up, what I would be interested to see, let me see if I can do it myself, but
No, they can put it, or
yeah,
let
yeah,
me try.
I'm trying to put
Yeah.
some of that presentation.
Jesna, can you put up the presentation of Dr. Partho Mukhopadhyay? Jesna?
Yes, sir.
Just a
Sorry
second.
about it. So, and I think you'll find that some of my comments quite resonate with what Professor Chandiramani has been saying uh, in this particular, and I think this is an important issue that needs to be discussed. So at the end of, I hope it'll be short presentation, it will be a central question to sort of start thinking about. So that's a nice picture. Right, good. So if you can have the full screen, please. Thank you.
Put it on show.
So yeah, the next.
Are you able to move?
Thank you. Yeah. There's a two arrows on top. If you can just click on that, I think it will come up on the full screen. Yeah. Can you hear me clearly?
At the bottom, there is put up in on a show, full screen.
That's
Yashna?
No, but this slide is fairly clear, right? The first slide, is this the first slide?
Yeah, that's fine. Let's go ahead with this. It'll be easier. So, I mean, this slide is basically a graphical representation of what Dr. Joshi has just presented. And the middle stripe area, this sort of divides the urban budget into four broad categories, which is basic infrastructure, which Dr. Joshi put together. I think it's a very nice way of classifying it. Metro projects, housing. So basic infrastructure is common. Things like water and sewage. Metro is, we all know what it is, transportation, but of course, as Professor Chandiramani just said, whose transportation and whether it's actually fulfilling the purpose is an issue. And then there is housing, which is individual assets supported by the government. And then also a certain amount on livelihoods. If you look very closely, you will see the thin black line at the top, and that is, I mean, broadly what the structure is. As of today, the numbers are about 20% in basic infrastructure, another 20% in housing, 60% in the metro, and some decimal remainder is what is there in livelihoods. So, which is why you can barely see that little thing at the top. And while during COVID, you see that there was this rise in the share of housing because that is the thing that could be done during that time. Soon after that, the share of metro has gone back to what it was at the beginning in 2014-15, it was about 60%. And as Dr. Joshi sort of clearly laid out, metro is not really, quote unquote, under control of the urban local body. So that is where, so this is broadly what our current structure of urban investment looks like, right? Now, if you look at the line that is there, that is the share that has been laid out in Dr. Joshi's presentation. And you can see that while there's been some slight increase, which from the pre-millennium days, whatever increase there was in JNRM has now sort of disappeared. It's gone up to 1.6 and now it's down back to about 1%. So, and of this 1%, as I said, 60% is metro rail. So if you're really looking at, and you take out another 20% in housing, you're left with 0.2% in basic urban infrastructure. That is where we are currently. Just if you can just move to the next slide, please. So the way I sort of understood the presentation was these three key messages. One is, as you can see, the budgeted investment in urban is falling. Second, the actual investment is falling even faster because the utilization of the budgeted amount is less than what it was supposed to be compared to the average for other sectors. And within this utilization, basic infrastructure is falling down even more because what is actually being implemented is metro rail. So if you're looking at basic urban infrastructure, budget is falling, actual investment is falling even further, and the share of that actual investment, basic, is falling even. So it's like a triple whammy. So this is the broad situation from what I understand. Second, there is this whole issue about, as I think this is a very important issue that Dr. Joshi brings out, which is announcement, operation, ramp up, ramp down. That is like a cycle that is happening. And that cycle means that the only time things get implemented in high intensity is during the ramp up period. So 3 out of 4 phases of this cycle is where not much is happening. One is an announcement. There may be some political benefits to it. Then there is a preparation, which takes a long time. As you mentioned, the Urban Challenge Fund was mentioned in the last budget, and the scheme guidelines were announced after this year's budget and before the end of the financial year. So it's unlikely any money will be spent this year. And then there will be a ramp-up period. And, I think one of the most interesting graphics is the one he presented about these various periods and these various schemes. And then, of course, as the scheme comes to an end and people are trying to sort of just wind it down like the last year or so of the smart city mission, there's a ramp down period, right? And he identifies the main demand side issue responsible for this paradox, the lack of capital absorption capacity, which is related to the lack of project planning and implementation capacity of the urban local bodies. And it is here that I think that I might want to take some issue with Dr. Joshi. So next slide, please. So the issue that I have is there are what I would call political economic considerations, to use a polite term, imbued in these decisions of investment as to what investment is to be taken and what investment is not to be taken. So the large investment decisions, and which is like a metro rail, with a large investment decision compared to let us say, a water supply and sewerage project. The associated award of the contracts creates this nexus between the decision makers and the implementers. And this nexus essentially means that if you want to change this, it creates a hurdle. So if you want to change the way the metro stuff is happening, there'll be a lot of people who will stand up against it because there are a lot of people who benefit from the way the metro is currently being implemented. And that is true for all projects in which there is a lot of investment. So how do we move forward? One way of trying to move forward is to locate things which matter a lot. Transport, buses is an important part of the story. Water supply might be another important part of the story. Fecal sludge management may be another part of the story. So locate high impact and low investment activities where we try and develop capacity within municipal, urban local bodies, because the resistance for urban local bodies doing those kinds of things that are not so highly investment intensive may be lower. And once you see the difference between that they're able to do that, then perhaps there will be a constituency that will be built up, and the confidence among both ULB politicians and the state. There are definitely some champions still in state level, like my former chair, Mr. Shiv Ramakrishnan, who would like to see more devolution happen to the urban local body. And those champions and these kinds of politicians, ULB politicians and the state level champions might be able to form an alliance which then can overcome the kind of political economic consideration that I referred to above. This is one. The second thing is, and this is, I was so happy to hear Professor Chandiramani sort of refer to that. If you look at all the urban schemes, and especially now the Urban Challenge Fund, it is about market financing and it is about conditionality. At one level, it sounds very nice. We must have reform. We must let the market discipline work in. All of that stuff is, at a theoretical level, it's difficult for me as an economist to argue against it. But I look around myself and say, is that same test being applied to railways? Is that same test being applied to highways? Between the railways and the highways, they've spent about $500 billion. Together, put 500 lakh crores are essentially going in that particular structure in place. Whereas we're looking at maybe 2% of the investment in railways and highways that is taking place. And to what extent are we able to generally get this kind of structure in place? And why is all the conditionality and all the market discipline only to be done in the urban sector, not in the other sector? The question, therefore, is it time, therefore, to think about separating this whole mission to reform and get better governance and do all these wonderful, nice things that people talk about in various reports, whether it is from India, whether it is from abroad, whether it's from the ADB, whether it's from the World Bank, about governance improvement, and say, how about the chalta rahega, that will happen. And there's the whole reason that I talked about in the political economic considerations, why those things will take their time. In the meantime, can we just make sure that we get basic stuff like water and electricity and sewerage and structures going, and get reasonable transport and get buses to function and so on? Just like we are doing in highways and railways. Nobody is asking the railways how much more container freight you are carrying before they're giving them more and more money. Nobody is asking the highways why their cost has gone up 10 times. Why is all this thing going to be done only for the urban sector? So this is the other question that therefore perhaps needs to be answered. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, Joshi Sahib, I think you can combine both.
Yeah. So 2 points. First, I will answer of Partha because he basically says, yes, what we say in Hindi, "Pehle sur mein gaon." So that is required at urban governance level. Correct. What is happening is that the better time management, as I said, supply side, the schemes are just announcement and this and that will not help. There has to be better time management of all the schemes at the central and state level. One need to understand ground realities, the time taken for the preparedness and all that. It is like a steam engine, steam railway engine. You can't stop feeding it coal and water to it. Otherwise, when it melts down, then it takes 8 to 10 years, 10 hours to start again to build the steam. So if anybody would have seen steam engine, then it is continuously fed, even if it is idling. It is not running, still it has to be keep up. So urban is something like that. It's a live, continuously it has to be provided funds and all that. And secondly, as you rightly said, political this thing, economy, uh, that's a larger issue. But basically what we can do is first going for a basic thing, basic water and all that, sorting their day-to-day problems, giving them more powers, improving the governance itself, and everybody has to take interest into it. Today, just making things available and just claiming that this will be a big thing and market thing. In fact, I want to reserve my comments. I want to wait for the Urban Challenge Fund scheme guidelines to come. But 50% to be raised from borrowing and market PPP, not going to work. I fully agree with you. Why all these conditionalities with the urban? Those are the basic infrastructure needs across the world. What is required is the basic better governance and the basic operations level and the funding. Now, coming back to the issues of raised by the Jyoti ma'am, I won't go for easy funds because real crux to my mind is there is no performance accountability. Of course, asking performance accountability from a person without giving him a resources, without giving him autonomy, freedom, powers, it's wrong. So it's both way. But so first provide autonomy and the powers and the resources and everything, professionalizing the cadre and everything, improving governance in all respect, but then no easy funds. I have seen all developed countries or other countries where local governments are performing well. In some cases, even they use 60%, they account 60% of the total government spending in federal structure also, or almost 35% of the GDP being routed through the local government. What really, political economy also exists over there, but what really is a very, very strict financial accounting norms and accountability. But accountability before enforcing performance accountability, as Partho has raised the point, all those conditionality only, but then no powers and all that. So that balance has to come. First, provide municipal, don't take away functions from them. Build their capacity, provide them the resources, which all things, and that is the basic. Why for local government? Local government is a government, third tier of a government need to be provided with the adequate power. Function, finance, symbiosis has to be there. So there should be adequate function. So earlier, as I said, three things. The municipal bodies or local government encumbered with the responsibility, that is the functional responsibility, empowered with the resources, and held accountable. All the three things are missing at the moment in our urban local government structure. Then coming to the data gap, there is not a mandate at all. A company law provides that if by this date accounts are not published, the CEO and the CAFO is every day penalty is there under the Companies Act. No municipal act mandates a specific date and a accountability and what we can say a penalty if not done. So provide them all support, but create the accountability. Many places there is a supply side initiative of providing them the resources, providing them the support, software and all that, but no accountability for ensuring the discipline. So data, and there is no national or state level agency managing the data. Just click Australian local government data and there is an independent agency which collects the data and publish it. Why there cannot be a urban finance data regulator? Neither CAG is coming out, neither local fund, no state government publish the credible data, neither municipal bodies are held accountable for not publishing data. Public disclosure law is there, but who challenges? Because as Jyoti madam has again said, there is no demand for the governance, there is no demand for the data. But data, if common citizen is not interested, but the decision makers at the national level and state level, they should be interested for monitoring the cities, how their cities are there. So today there is no data and nobody is monitoring. Who is supposed to monitor? Not a citizen, common citizen. It is the higher level government which need to monitor municipal bodies. It is municipal bodies are the children of the state government. Who is taking their accountability and who is monitoring them? No, because there is no data, and as it is said that when there is no data, you can't monitor the performance. There is no system of creating data. Now, 15th Central Finance Commission insisted that data should be published. There should be a published bank balance sheet and all that. Then only you will get the money. Tomorrow I will be doing one good thing affected negatively because municipal bodies stop getting the grants, claiming the grants. Because they lack that capacity to prepare that. And whatever then city finance org has been created, all static data is there. So cities have started publishing to get the money grant because that's the entry level condition under SPM 2 also and AMRUT 2. So cities are publishing data whose quality is very poor. By going individual example, I can say the wrong data has been put forward, but because conditionality is that in public domain, annual accounts should be put. Nobody has verified it. Nobody has checked it. Neither CAG nor local fund audit department or nor any government or apparatus or independent agency checking it. So quality of all the data which is put on the website is of poor quality, but they qualified to get the grant. Those who could not put didn't qualify to get it grant. So there is no system, a protocol and an independent verification mechanism to verify the data and whose requirement should be. It is the central government, all monitoring agencies and the state government should have that kind of a requirement to monitor performance of the cities. We do not rank cities on basis of the financial performance. We are ranking them in Swachh Bharat mission. We did livability ranking. We did other kind of ranking, but the basic just using 15, 20 secular indicators, the way other countries do, we are not ranking our cities, how they are doing, how they are performing. We are not judging what is the capacity of the city and how much it is optimizing. Because that is not way we looking it. The cities which are having good capacity are the real failing Indian urban scenario. They are not delivering. The cities which do not have capacities, you can't blame them. It is like a boy who doesn't have capacity to score 50 marks and he is scoring 45 marks, one can. But the cities which can score 80% marks are scoring 40%. That nobody is addressing because that performance is not monitored. There is no data. We can't expect city to demand or an individual citizen to demand data of the city. Ideally in democracy should be, but still we can't that. It is the onus of the regulatory agencies to do it. Finally, you asked this economic, the CER which is coming, which is newly talked, and some studies has been carried out about the economic plan. I was the member of that committee and we suggested that economic planning is missing. We don't plan our cities for economic purpose. That is important from point of view of 2047 Vikasit Bharat, because each city has a contribution to make city India developed one, and therefore that economic role of a city need to be reviewed and need to be planned. Today, what we are planning at the most inadequately is the infrastructure. It's a reactive thing. It's only maintenance organization. Means city is going to grow, city population is going to grow, and then municipal body, how much water it should bring, sewage. So all our cities and all entire planning, whether we are talking of capital investment plan, city development plan, is just reactive to the urbanization growth, providing the basic necessity. It's a reactive maintenance organization. No city of India is being planned economically. How its economic livelihood go up and how it will play an economic role in the overall nation or the state development. Luckily, Niti Aayog has now started those kind of 2-3 pilot. This Surat, this is developed. New Mumbai economic plan is developed, which is a welcoming thing. But at the moment, we don't know whether it will take away whatever little bit powers and role local governments are having away. But I don't fear that, because at the moment, local governments do not have economic planning role. No city, though 74th Constitutional Amendment 12th schedule mentions local economic planning as one of the function in 18. But it has never been in last 77 years history, no city has done economic planning. So even if somebody takes away that, it is not at all with the urban local government at the moment. So I think I will stop here. If there are any questions from the participants, we can take those in chat box.
So, if I may just come in here, Ravi, you remember when we had our meetings in June last year at the Symbiosis Center for Urban
Yeah.
Studies remember we talked about what is the future agenda for the center. And we said that one of our projects would be making an urban economic plan of the city. And there was a question put by some senior academicians that why do you need to do this? You know, if you remember, why is the need for it? And then immediately after that, it has actually come up, and Niti Aayog is also thinking in the same lines. So I just felt that we were on the right track when we were looking at economic plan
Yes.
of Pune. And actually, what you have to do is not an economic plan of the city, but really of the extended region. Like making an economic plan for PMC is not going to help, because it's going to spill over into PMRDA. So I think that consolidated region. But when you're talking about a small city, an economic plan is so important, because it can tell you what percentage of sewage you have, what percent of households have potable water, where is the last mile connectivity required, what is the operations and maintenance that you have to have, to see that the quality of governance in water supply, which is such a basic amenity. You heard about the GBS syndrome that had come about in Pune, which was really contaminated water. And so as long as the water comes in the tap, people are absolutely okay with that. So I think you have questions for you. I just thought I'll add something here.
Thank you. See, absorption capacity, good question, but that is the real. It cannot be built in one day. We should have done it for last 20 years when we started with the JNURM. But that efforts haven't happened on that side. See, it is like you eating every day 2 rotis. All of a sudden, you can't eat 6 rotis or 8 rotis. What will happen is a diarrhea next day. And that is the diarrhea has happened in urban system. You need to do a long-term sincere effort, professionalizing municipal cadre, giving them adequate staff, giving them adequate resources, giving them adequate autonomy, giving them powers, and putting functions on their shoulder with a helping hand. It is like that a child is falling while walking. It falls 100 times, but we allow him to fall with the giving a finger to support. If we lift him forever, that child won't learn to walk at all. So one has to help him to learn, walk, stand, and take the responsibilities. Taking away responsibilities is a wrong way, but that has been the course. And what is the result is the institutional fragmentation. We need to restore primacy to the urban local governance or urban local bodies with all kind of support.
Can I Ravi Saab, come up with 2 questions that I have? We've finished our time, but I think, if you don't mind, I think 2 questions. One is this.
I don't mind, but Kirtiji, you being so senior, having questions for me.
Yeah,
Probably
of course.
you must be
I think,
having
no,
answers with you only.
No. No, one is this that in the and this is a specific question to you, I think, in the context of what we're discussing. One is this that capacity building and the lack of it and the need for it, it is not something new. It is an age-old thing that one is hears about. Let me kind of give you a small example from your old Baroda. I remember having organized a meeting 50 years ago, and Sarat Mehta was the finance minister at the time and made a very interesting observation while talking about on the corporation and the corporators. He said half of them are not worth running a pawn shop of 40,000 rupees. If they cannot do that, how could they run cities? How could they manage cities? How could they contribute to cities? So this is the first question. My first question is this, that it is not nothing new. Something that it is, I am talking about something that I heard almost 50 years ago. And I think it's very well articulated, in a language that people understand. This first question: why nothing has happened? Second question, which is related, but in the scale terms. Like say, for instance, you talked about $640 billion required in the next 15, 20 years, to meet the infrastructure gaps. Now, GNNURM, which was relatively better organized and better planned, I think, reform-linked investment project, invested 14 billion over a period of 10 years. Now the gap is 14 billions and 640 billions in 20 years and 14 billions in 10 years. This is a huge gap. Which capacity building would bridge this gap? And therefore, I don't think the question is just the gap, but the quantum of gap, the scale of gap, and what it will require to deal with it. And these are the two questions that I have, both in terms of what Sarath said, and of course, this terrific gap that exists in terms of capacity.
See, capacity building, if I have to give real status, then out of the total employees who are working in municipal bodies, less than 1% get any kind of a training every year. Now, calling them at a Delhi organizing workshop, which has or to the institutions for training courses, if they can't come, and more than 50% people are not able to come, because municipal bodies are different kind of a organization. Their job is firefighting kind of a thing. So half of the time, whatever training courses are arranged, they just can accommodate only 1% and at the top level. Second, so we need to change the entire training methodology and pedagogy. We need to assign the people who will go in the city and train people over there. Calling them at a different place is not working, and 50% of the trainers, I have been associated for last 35 years in municipal training, but municipal training is minuscule and it doesn't happen because it is very difficult to release any municipal person for a training, and only then you have to arrange it at exquisite places so that they get interested and come, and still then it fails. Entire training methodology need to change, and we need to take training to their workplace, to where they are working. A massive capacity building is required, but with the right kind of this thing to create it. They can be trained. In fact, I have done training for political representative. I found them most interested into it. In fact, I found executives or bureaucrat deadwood, as far as a student they are concerned. But politicians, I found keen learner. You need to talk in their language and you need to train them accordingly. So, but nobody has given thought about municipal officers or municipal system training pedagogy. We are going in a very conventional way and in a very limited way. Secondly, we need to do the professionalization. Means there is no lateral entry into municipal bodies. Very rarely, only Keshav Verma and some cities have done, where you enter, take the professional people as a lateral entry into municipal. Very conventionally, people join at a very lower level, and very top level comes from the bottom. So that entire issue, we have 24 central cadre. Why there cannot be a separate urban cadre? Correct. Even I remember some 15 years back in Masuri, there was a Shivram Krishnan itself headed that, and we that had said that there need to be some kind of a rethinking. At that time, our job was to prepare 8-year, 10, 16-year, and 24-year course curriculum for the IS officers about urban. But we need specialization. We need people who know urban very well. So there are a lot of gamut issues. In fact, it's not one issue, but we need to work on all these issues because they are related. Unless until you create that capacity, there cannot be project planning capacity. There today entirely it becoming consultant driven. But again, even I work as a consultant, but being in a municipal officer, because I was also a municipal officer, you must have capacity to ask the right question to the consultant. Correct. As a decision maker, you must have that capacity, what you need to take from consultant. Otherwise, then whatever consultants I have seen, let me give you example. I have seen across all the states developing municipal accounting system. There are big IT firms which are developing accounting software for municipal this thing. They lack domain knowledge, but there are no people to give them the domain knowledge. And therefore, I find in each state, for last 30 years we are doing, but municipal accounting system upgradation is not complete. Wherever even we have gone very high-end cloud-based system for municipal accounting. Means municipal bodies just have to do the entry and cloud-based system is there. But again, that is failing to deliver because the design itself is, I don't have answer. We need to work on each and every aspect. Like a, what we can say, a war mission, everybody will have to contribute because the issues are so large, so interconnected, and everywhere there is a problem. Right from finance, so all the aspects of governance, right from planning to implementation and accountability.
Thank you, Ravi Saab.
Sir, Ravi sir, there are some questions in the question box, Q&A
Can you
box.
read?
Please.
Okay.
Please.
Yes, I could open. First is Mr. Raghu. Yes, migration should not be stopped. Our cities are not accepting migration. So if we go by the current definition, the report says that our urbanization growth is much less than compared to the global averages or what has been experienced. I won't go into that. But yes, unless until migration happens, even economic survey of India 2024-5 and 16 Central Finance Commission has addressed this issue, saying that there are 45% people who are excess in the rural. They need to come to the urban, but not coming to the urban. Urban cities must be able to give them job, place to stay, and basic quality of life. That is house, transport, and all that. And for that, then the economic planning, because our cities are not planned from point of view of economic livelihood. For those who are interested, they can just visit the web and see the New York economic plan for 2022 to 2032. It is on the web for 10 years. And New York, that plan is talking of how New York can increase the economic opportunity or employment opportunity in coming 10 years. And for that, then it is discussing where the railway line need to be extended and where what kind of infrastructure need to be created. Our cities, whatever plan we are doing, plan is about how that land to be utilized, what will be the FSI means, and all that, where will be the what kind of a reservation, but missing the economic point behind it, or whether it is a water supply, whether city transport, mobility plan, all that is done suo moto without link to the economic planning. So migration need to be accepted. It is a requirement of that because that transformation has to happen. All the excess people who are in the rural area, they need to come, should get gainful employment opportunity in the city and a basic minimum standard of quality living. That is a place to stay, place to move around, that is the mobility, and water supply and other basic necessities. Next is Manas Rath shouldn't consider be seen as a proxy of capacity. No. Consultant can help. But governance they can't govern. So governance cannot be outsourced. And for having an effective governance, decision making, monitoring, implementing, taking appropriate policy decisions, consultant can give feed, but then you need to train the policy makers to take take the right kind of a decision. And for that, he must be having a right kind of an analysis put forward to him, to which he must be able to comprehend. So consultant cannot be proxy. I have lived in all three worlds. I have worked with the NGOs, with the academic institution I am teaching. I have been a government officer, and I have been for last 23 years as a consultant. I can't replace the governance. I can't replace the decision maker or policy maker. And that policy maker must have ability to ask the right question, and he must have vision and clarity what he wants to achieve. Consultant is a means to end, not the end itself. Any other question?
There's the one last by Subhadeep Biswas on Calcutta.
Okay, I have to go down. I'm not able to see his question.
He said, sir, I want to know about the economic status of Calcutta because there are certain areas which lag behind. The new town area is developed, but what about the other impacts which do not meet basic requirements?
Unfortunately, I won't be able to answer because in last 15 years, I haven't studied Calcutta per se individual city. So I don't know about its finances and how the budgetary allocation is happening and how Calcutta is spending as a municipal body or how much state government is spending. Sorry, I haven't looked into that finances. Or I haven't worked in Calcutta for last 10, 15 years as a consultant also.
Well, Ravi Sahab, I think, we've exhausted even the question answers, and we ran 15 minutes beyond our time limit. So let us kind of wind up today. Thank you very much, all three of you. I think Ravi Sahab for this brilliant and comprehensive and passionate presentation that you always make. Thank you, Jyoti ji, for some very pertinent, very good questions. And I know Partha is left it up. Oh, it's there.
No, I'm very much there, and I just wanted to also quickly come in and I think I misspoke when I was speaking and said 500 lakh crores instead of 5 lakh crores, which I had put into the comments. So just to make sure that was recorded so that people don't go away with it wrong. Thank you.
And thank you, Partha Sahab. I think, despite, I think, in transit, making time for this conversation and making some very interesting points. So thank you very much. As we have announced from the beginning, second session takes place only tomorrow. And once again, Ravikant sir is going to kind of make a presentation, and he's going to look at the 16th Finance Commission and its recommendation, and what does it mean in the context of capacity building and resources for the local governments. So we look forward to seeing you tomorrow, and thank you very much for your presentation, for your time, and for your contribution. Thank you very much.
Thanks again to INHAF, Partha, and Jyoti ji. Thank you. Look forward
Thank you,
tomorrow.
sir. Thank you.
Tomorrow again,
you.
sir. Tomorrow again.
Yeah.
Thank you. At the same time. Thank you.